Welcome to Maths Memory. This is your revision card we should get in front of us to get the key ideas during this video, which is a bit longer than usual, but very core to understanding the basics of algebra. So this is basic equations. This is week 3 on our revision planner. It's a foundation or high level tier paper on GCSE at the UK level, and this is grade 4/5. We're going to show you this in our learning objectives. So we're going to show you how to deal with equations involving brackets, secondly involving fractions, thirdly cross multiplication, and indices as well. Also, you may learn a technique called double swap at the beginning, but we haven't put that over here. Leave a space for your best examples you find good to your understanding on here, and hopefully by the end of this we'll get to 3 clear steps to make sure you're a pro and you can do these questions really easy. Let's turn over to get our toolkit to get our best methodologies during this video. So let's create 4 blank sections on your revision card on my toolkit, sections A, B, C, and D. Here we're going to show you the best tips and tricks for you to use and your subheadings so you can categorize these and understand the concepts through this maths memory video on basic equations. Press pause and make sure you have this on a separate card before we start back to basics. Question 1, back to basics, basic equations. So this is a nice easy question that takes you on the whole, let's say, journey through this topic. You'll see this a lot, and we're going to introduce you to 2 basic steps in this topic of basic equations, step 1 and step 2. The step 1 basically is this, so pay attention. We create the boxes. Now all the x terms, we put little green boxes around them. It could be any color of your choice. We choose green, and numbers we'll choose red. So the goal is to always now, in step 2, use a golden rule, which means you put all the x's on the left hand side of the equal sign, all the numbers on the right. So all the greens on the left, all the reds on the right. So this 3x we like on the left hand side, the +1, if you want to shift over here, it'll become a -1 by the way, or because the number goes on the right. 16, we like its number on the right hand side. 3x equals 16 minus 1. So 3x equals simply 15. X would be 15 over 3, because the opposite of times is divide. And then we simply see how many 3's are in 15. It'll be 5. X is equal to 5. That is your answer. You can always test it as well by plugging this back into the original equation if you wanted to, and check it. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 plus 1 is 16. It works. So make sure you understand step 1, which is the boxes on these x's and numbers, and step 2, which is the golden rule. These will be used throughout this whole topic on basic equations. Question 2, back to basics. Press pause. Let's try to solve x on this equation over here. Press play when you have finished. So this question is dealing about the flipper. Now the flipper basically means that when you have x terms on the right hand side of the equals sign, you'll simply make it on the left hand side to make it a bit easier. So you simply swap whatever we see over here, i.e. whatever we see on the right hand side, we'll put over here. There's no sign change. And whatever we see on the left hand side, we put over here. That's the flipper in its basic terms. We now simply do x's on the left and numbers on the right. So we're going to put all the x terms in a green box and all the numbers respectively in a red box over here. The golden rule states x's on the left, numbers on the right. So we're going to put 4x equals 15 minus 7, because the +7 became a -7 over here. 4x therefore equals 8, and x will equal 8 over 4. X will equal 2. So that is how you do this question over here, by using the main, let's say, idea of the flipper. Question 3, back to basics. Press pause, let's write this question down. Press play when you have finished. So this equation is using the idea of cross multiplication. Every number has an imaginary 1 underneath this, and you can put this in the exam whenever you see this, because it allows you to visualize 2 separate fractions. Now cross multiplication says this: x times 1, or 1 times x, will equal 5 times 6. That's always a law when you have 2 fractions equaling each other. Hence x will equal 30, and that's how simple this is. Okay, so again, testing your idea of cross multiplication. Remember that 1 underneath any integer you see. Question 4, back to basics. Press pause, let's write this question down, let's try to solve it, and press play when you have finished. So this question again is using the idea now of actually fractions, but making you understand that it this fraction can be written as this, 3 over 6, okay? And most pupils may think this may be 2 the answer, okay? But it's 3 over 6. This number simply goes underneath this 6 over here. All right, so x will equal, therefore, in its lowest terms, a half. So this appreciates that we can have fractions that are less than 1, or any fraction for that matter, when you deal with an equation like this. Question 5, back to basics. Press pause, write this question down. It's about squares and square roots within equation. You're ready. So if looking at basically a squared kind of number over here, how do we do with square numbers? Well, it's very simple. We look at the opposite, let's say sine to this, the square root. So the opposite of square is square root. Let's square root x over here. X squared rather, we get x, square root 25, and we're going to get x is equal to 5. So take note, this is used a lot in the core questions to come. We see a lot of squared terms as we go along. Question 1, core 1, basic equations. Press pause, let's write this question down. This is an interesting question, comes up quite a lot. A grade 4 2 marker. Press play when you have found the value of x. So this question is called double swap, and you'll find out why we call it that in a second. First of all, let's look at these 2 steps, step 1 and 2, which we always apply to any basic equation problem. So first of all, let's do this. Let's create these boxes. Now the green boxes are going to denote x terms, and that's throughout the whole video, and the red ones will be the numbers. So that's step 1. Let's define the boxes on both the sides of the equal sign. We could say basically from step 2 now, the golden rule is this. We want all the green bits on the left, or the x terms rather, and all the red bits, or the numbers, on the right hand side. This is the golden rule over here. So the golden rule, x is on the left, numbers on the right. Okay, so 6x, is that okay on the left hand side? It is, it's an x, so we leave it there. The plus 2, no, that's a number. We only want x's on the left hand side. So we're going to shift this plus 2 to this side, and that will become a minus 2 in a second. The 4x, is that okay on the right hand side? The plus 4x? No, it should be moved to the left hand side because all the x's go there. It will become a minus 4x. So minus 4x over here. And the plus 10, is that okay on the right hand side? It is, it's a number. It's going to be there. So it'll be basically 6x minus 4x equals 10 minus 2. It's double swap because we're swapping both these x and numbers simultaneously in one go. So make sure you understand this, okay? These are all the green boxes, all the x terms we want, and all these other numbers over here. So this is the golden rule, basically. Second step. Once you have this, simply just simplify your terms. 6x minus 4x is 2x. 10 minus 2 is 8. 2 times what gives you 8? It'll be simply x equals 4. And that is your answer. If you want to test it, you can plug it back into your original equation. You don't have to. We'll do it really quickly just to test it for this question. The rest of them you should follow this little method as well. So 6 times 4 is 24. 24 plus 2 is 26. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 10 is 26. Check. 26 is irrelevant what the number is, but the fact is that a number will equal a number is enough to get you by that this is the correct solution. Question 1, part B, core 1. Basic equations. Press pause. Let's write this down. And this is about brackets. So press play when you have found its value of x. Let's get our first toolkit revision card out. This is brackets on subheading A. So you just learned how to deal with brackets. So again, the golden rule still applies. You apply your boxes under your x and number terms, and obviously you do your golden rule. X is on the left, numbers on the right. This question you've just attempted, so make sure you have it down, and if you want to write further notes you can, but this is really good for your latter questions on Let's Do It, which we'll do at the end of this video. So this equation is all about a classic example of brackets. So it's always good to identify at the beginning of any equation what your, let's say, subheading is. In the last question it was double swap. In this question it is brackets, okay? So we have a single bracket. Let's multiply this out straight away. B for in bid mass is first. 3 times 2x and 3 times minus 4. Let's get on with this. So it's 6x minus 12 equals 18. Now again, look at step 1. We can define all the x terms, 6x over here, and all the respective number terms over here. Step 2, we will want all the x's on the left and numbers on the right. That's the golden rule. So the 6x remains over here. We like that over here. And this minus 12, let's shift it to the right hand side. So it's 18 plus 12. 6x will equal, therefore, 30. And x will equal 30 over 6. And therefore, 5. You can test it in your own time. But that's the value. X equals 5 in this case. The great thing about algebra, in fact, for any type of algebra, not just this topic, is you can always test it and totally marks up. So you know you have it right at the end of the exam by subbing in the value into the original equation at the end always. Let's get our second toolkit and let's head to this section B, fractions. So again, you've learned how to deal with fractions and how to, again, apply the steps of creating your boxes and the golden rule, which apply to any kind of equation. Press pause to make sure you've got this down. Question 2a, core 2 basic equations. Press pause, let's write this down. Let's try to find x and press play when you have finished. So this equation is all about finding x, as we've been doing before. This one is fractions. That's the subheading on this one. So again, let's define all the x's and numbers. X term is x over 3 in this case. By the way, take note, x over 3 is the same as, say, 1/3 x if you get stuck. It's the same concept as that. Therefore, it's an x term. The plus 2 is a number, and the 6 is a number as well. Golden rule, step 2, let's get all the x's on the left, numbers on the right. So x over 3, this will equal now 6 minus 2. The plus 2 simply shifts over to this side over here. X over 3 equals 4. And let's cross multiply now. We can say x times 1 equals 3 times 4, which basically means x is going to be 12. And that's your final answer. X is going to be 12 for this. Question 2b, core 2 basic equations. Press pause. Let's write this question down on fractions, how you apply this within equations. Grade 4 2 marker. Press play when you're ready. So this question involves a fraction. That's the first subheading you should note down. Let's do something like this. So when you have a fraction, let's try to make both of these, let's say, numbers fractions. So we'll put a 1 over here. Okay, every number is over 1. That allows us to do something special called cross multiplication. So 2x minus 4 times 1 will equal 5 times 2. All right, so that's why the 1 is very important to make them two fractions. Then we can simply do this. So it's 2x minus 4 times 1, which is simply 2x minus 4, equals 2 times 5, like we said. 2x minus 4 will simply equal 10. And then we treat it like we did one of the questions before. All the x terms we'll put over here, and all the numbers we'll put in a box like this in red. So x is on the left, numbers on the right. That's the golden rule. 2x equals 10 plus 4. So 2x would equal 14, and x would simply be 14 divided by 2, which is 7. So check your answer, but that should be the best way of understanding this. And this subheading, again, is called fractions. This is part C now, and cross multiply is our subheading on this topic over here. So this is cross multiplication. It's a very basic example, something not on the actual video, but it's something to show you how to deal with a fraction and how to apply cross multiplication. X times 1 will equal 3 times 4. Always, it's a law. We have two fractions equaling each other. So press pause to make sure you've got this and more importantly understood this. So you can apply this for the latter questions. Question 3a. Let's press pause, write this core 3 question down, and we're going to be mixing a few ideas we've come across before. Press play when you have completed this. So let's try to solve this in the best way we can and look for any kind of questions we previously have done on this maths memory video. So we see a bracket on the left hand side. Let's put times over here. 3 times x, 3 times 1. Always do brackets first. So we get 3x plus 3 equals x minus 2. We should recognize a particular feature of this. All the x terms we'll put in a nice green box, and all the numbers, the plus 3 and the minus 2, in a red box. So x is on the left and numbers on the right, the golden rule. 3x minus x equals minus 2 minus 3. We won't go in the ins and outs of how we got that. We work out each side. So 2x equals minus 5. We have a top heavy fraction. So minus 5 over 2. That number, remember, but always underneath that coefficient of x, which is 2. Just put it underneath there. You can say 2.5 if you want to as a fraction, or minus 5 over 2. Either one is accepted in the exam. There we go. Question 3b. Let's solve x for this equation involving indices. Press pause and press play when you're ready. So let's try to do this one. We're involving indices over here. So again, let's see what we have. Now we have, let's say, a number over here. We have 2. We have an x term, x squared. And we have a number on the right hand side, which is 50. Let's still apply, all the x's on the left, numbers on the right. Now the 2 over here should be on the right hand side, so it's very quite simple really. These are 2 separate, remember, let's say terms over here. So x squared equals 50 over 2, we divide that, so x squared will equal 25, and x will simply be the square root of 25. X will equal 5 in this case. It could be plus 5 or minus 5. In this case, we'll keep it simple, simply make it 5. Section D, and indices, we'll call it square here, because we're doing squared numbers. Again, make sure you understand this. The first rule, always apply your boxes, the numbers, the x terms, step 2, apply the golden rule, x is on the left, numbers on the right. You've just done a question like this. So make sure you've understood this, and press pause and play when you're ready to go ahead to the next question. The rule, x is on the left, for a challenge, you've just done a question like this. Press pause, so make sure you've understood this, and press pause grade 5 this time, 3 marks. Press play when you have completed this. So in this case, we're going to basically be doing the same thing as before. Let's try to figure out what we know from the previous equations on this video. So we have the flipper in this case. The flipper just simply means we put all the x's on the left-hand side and the numbers on the right, because the x's are here on the right. So no sign changes, just whatever we see on the right, put it over here. 4x squared over 3 plus 8 equals 11. Now we can probably do the all the x terms and the number terms. So we have that as an x term, let's say, and this numbers over here. Let's go one step further. Let's now take this plus 8 to make a minus 8 over there. So 4x squared over 3 will equal 11 minus 8, which will in turn equal 3. We can therefore cross multiply by putting 1 here. We have 2 separate fractions, and we can lead on to this point over here. 4x squared times 1, which is 4x squared, will equal 3 times 3, which is 9. X squared equals 9 over 4. So x would be the square root of 9 over 4, and x would simply be square root 9, square root 4 separately, 3 over 2. It could be the minus version as well, but at this stage, we'll keep it simple as 3 over 2 as a top heavy, or you could say 1.5 as a decimal. It doesn't really make a difference what we do. That's a grade 5. So welcome to the last bit of this video called Basic Equations. We hope you have understood and more importantly enjoyed this set of questions. Let's go through this on your Maths Memory MasterCard. So let's get with this on here. So first thing on your learning objectives, have you learned to deal with equations with brackets? Okay, over here. If you have, give yourself a tick because you've understood that. Have you understood fractions as well? How to deal with equations with fractions? Again, all of these involve those 2 things, the boxes and the golden rule. Third thing, using a fraction, cross multiplication. Have you learned how to multiply those numbers with your denominator? And lastly, indices. Have you learned how to deal with powers at the end? And the opposite of squares are square roots and whatnot. If you've understood that during this video, give yourself a tick as well over there. Your best examples over here, your best questions. What's the best value to you? You give yourself a little question here. And obviously these are your 3 steps we've applied here in Maths Memory, which you can apply to your Let's Do It questions using your revision card. So first of all, always apply your boxes. Boxes meaning either your green or your red boxes, we call it, to your, let's say, your X or your number terms. Secondly, apply a golden rule. Golden rule is basically all the X's on the left of the equal sign and all the numbers on the right. Make sure you have that done. And thirdly, make X a subject. Okay, if you do those 3 things, you've got it made on here, and all these 4 things are always embedded in one of the questions. So press pause and let's turn over to our final toolkit to make sure you absorb this for our last questions on. So here we have it, our final 4 different types of subheadings on advanced equations. So let's get your card. Make sure you have these 4 different subheadings: brackets, fractions, cross multiplication, and indices or squaring different X terms. So if you have these 4 things, we're ready to start our Let's Do It questions, where you get a chance to apply these key methods onto your questions yourselves. Press pause and make sure you have these all done on your cards before we start. Question 1, let's do it. Basic equations. So let's get your revision cards. Let's apply what you've written on there, your best methodologies and your tips and your tricks. And let's try question 1, parts A and B. Press play when you're ready. Question 2, let's do it. Let's press pause, write parts A and B down, and try some more of your skills you've learned. Press play when you have completed this. Question 3, let's do it. Basic equations. Press pause and let's write parts A and B down and let's see what you do with this. Question 4, let's do it. Basic equations. Press pause to write A and B down and press play when you've done this. It's grade 5, these 2 questions. Congratulations, you have now completed this topic of basic equations on Maths Memory Week 3, bronze tier. So go back to your revision planner and rate yourself out of 10 how good you feel on this topic. Go back and let's see how well you've scored on your Let's Do It questions, how well have those questions matched up to your revision cards you have created. It's quite a long topic, obviously, but in depth. But again, this mark is very valuable to you. So get this mark on your planner. Let's move forward on this week.